Yeah, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon for some. It's actually a global forum, and I must thank everyone who is joining in here for this meeting because it's a very important one for everyone. I will also mention a couple of words in Sinhalese as well because the respondents can speak in Sinhalese. Because අපි මේ පටන් ගන්නේ මේ ඉතා වැදගත් කාර්යයක් අධ්‍යාපනය වෙනුවෙන් ලංකාවේ. ඉතින් මේ ග්ලෝබලි ඒ කියන්නේ ලෝකෙ හැමතැනින්ම වගේ ඒකට ස්වාධීනව සහභාගී වෙන අය මේ මීටින් එකට ඇතුළත් වෙලා ඉන්නවා. එහෙම නැත්නම් ඒගොල්ලන්ට ඒකේ රෙකෝඩින් එකක් ලැබේවි. ඉතින් අපි ඊටාම අගය කරන්න ඕනේ මේ වගේ දෙයක් අපි පටන් ගන්න එක ගැන. පළමුවෙන්ම කියන්න ඕන I am a medical doctor who has also done research and also been a university educator, both in Sri Lanka for more than 20 years and in the United Kingdom for another 20 years. So reaching the retirement ages, we were thinking how to share our knowledge with the others. And we formed what is called leads. Leads is about learning and educating each other so that people can assess and decide what is best. So basically, telling people how to make judgments in Sri Lanka. So we started in a very small scale about 3.5 years ago. So now it has expanded and we got regular global contributors, about 300 people. On top of that, now Solar Village SDG is actually coming to fruition as a Solar Village SDG recently, but it's been a project that's been there for more than nearly 25 years now, and you will hear about it. So as we go along, but we together launching this English for rural children in Sri Lanka as a volunteer project that can be exercised through voluntary channels to the benefit of the nation. That's what we are doing. So to do that, I need to talk a little bit about the English language, why we want English language. Now, if you see the number of languages we have in the world, if you take the Google Translate, already they are translating 243 languages. And the distribution of those languages, some of those languages, you can see. So the English is actually not quite like a language that we're using. We are using English as a tool to communicate between each other. If we can't communicate, then how can we tell anybody what we want or what we do or what we want to do? So that is the important thing about English as a tool. English needs for communication, and that also connects people between each other. It's connectivity. And it helps you learn as well from each other what they are doing, what they've achieved, their innovations, their research ideas, etc. And also, people who are looking for employment, English has become a paramount need that is there, particularly if you're going away from Sri Lanka. And even in Sri Lanka itself, now people are looking for English competence for certain jobs. So the English is a tool, it's not a language or a mother tongue that some of our own people are interpreting, saying people should learn mother tongue and not the English as a language. So still there are critics, but I want to tell specifically that English is a communicating tool that is essential for today's life in this 21st century. So that is how we can achieve wider knowledge. If you know wider knowledge, better understanding, then you make better judgment, that is better logic. And if you understand each other very well, then you will be a peaceful and prosperous nation. So that's the ultimate goal. So you all will be contributing for a national cause that is very important at this particular time. But I must say that I cannot stop this before introducing Nilmini Rollins. Nilmini is a lawyer, but very much oriented in charitable work, currently based in the UK, very fluent in English and French, but also speaks Sinhala quite well as well. So she will talk in a second. But before that, I just want to mention just one thing because something very important happened in Sri Lanka just 3 days ago, and that's this. We had a general election and we had a outstanding win for NPP and also President Andrew Kumar Dissanayake. Now, what is important to see in this is that Jaffna win by this national party showing is probably the beginning of the end of divisive politics, which has really been the difficult point in Sri Lanka for years and years and years. But it is also our duty to work with the elected politicians. I'm not going to talk anything more about it, but to congratulate the team who has done this work and President AKD. And about this thing, there'll be a meeting as leads do normally next Sunday. That's all I have to say about it. So thank you for that. So we are going to be working in a very different environment in Sri Lanka, working together to increase education in the country. So obviously that is why I thought I'll mention this change in the environment in Sri Lanka just 3 days ago. So thank you very much. And I'll stop here and I'll invite Nilmini to give a more introduction into this English program. Thank you very much, Nilmini.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Chula. I hope you can see the screen, all of you. Please say yes if you can see the screen.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you. All right. Well, welcome everybody. So we're really delighted that so many of you have responded to our call for volunteer English language tutors. It was actually unexpected to have so many respond positively. It actually shows there's a lot of goodwill on the part of so many people who want to give back to the community in Sri Lanka. So I'm really, really delighted to see that. So this is actually a collaboration between a social enterprise which is currently being formed called Solar Village SDG. So the SDG stands for Sustainable Developmental Goals, Solar Village SDG, and also with Leeds, and Chula Leeds. And so the social enterprise is an independent organization, but we're working together on this Zoom classrooms project. So that's what this is about, because a number of people emailing in have actually asked who's behind this. So just to let you know that this is part of a collaboration between two entities. So in terms of this collaboration, the Zoom classrooms is one of many projects that the Solar Village SDG hopes to do. And as I said, it's currently in process of being established, but it's a non-political organization, Solar Village SDG, and its primary objective is to promote renewable energy in Sri Lanka, using that as a platform to further the sustainable developmental goals. So that's in a nutshell the project for Solar Village SDG. And Zoom classrooms that we are collaborating with Leeds is one aspect of the SDGs. So we floated some ideas and we came up with this proposal. And just so that you're all aware of what we talk about when we say SDGs, the UN enunciated 17 SDGs, 17 Sustainable Developmental Goals for the globe. So it's global goals. And one of the 17 is a quality education for all. And so this forms a part of those ambitions. And we are trying to make our small contribution towards that. And so Solar Village SDG hopes to achieve as many of those 17 goals as much as possible within our capacity in a small way, starting in a small way, but let's hope we can expand that bit by bit, starting with quality education, but starting with the English language. So that's what this is all about. a quality education for all, because a lot of people, a lot of children in the remote areas especially don't have access to the facilities some of the private schools or some of the other state schools in the cities might have. So this is to try and give them access to that. But we're keen to adopt an extracurricular approach, because having talked to a number of teachers and principals, we have the impression that a lot of focus is on achieving good marks and getting distinctions and whatever in exams. But what we want to make sure, as Chula said, is to make English a language of communication. It's really important that it's actually used, and also that learning is enjoyed by the children, because then that way we establish a lifelong love of learning as well. So the Zoom classroom, it's a concept that came about following an initiative that Chula initiated with some principals in the Kaluthara district, and they have started a smart room, if you like, or a room where the children in that school have access to computers and the internet, and we thought, hold on, this is a fantastic opportunity to give children a window to the world. So even in the most remote areas, if we can get these smart rooms installed, then those children can have access to the whole world through the internet. So that's what we're hoping to achieve, but we're hoping to achieve that by through the funds that could be generated from the solar village concept. So how will that help? A little bit later, we'll explain the solar village concept in more detail. But if you just remember the term solar village concept for now, that is a wealth creation method. And Professor Dharma Dasa is very much the initiator, the father of that project. And he will explain that in a little while. But as a part that will create the income necessary to enable us to expand the smart rooms and hopefully throughout the entire island as well. So that's what this is about. The expanding the smart room concept throughout the island involves, to our mind, creating a model school. So we're hoping that the model school will be a particular school that we've been working with, and an associated school as well in the Kaluthara district. They will be the model schools for this project as a pilot, if you like. And the fundraising will be done through the Solar Village SDG. But once we've established this model school, we're hoping to replicate it in other remote areas, or Kaluthara is not so remote, but I mean in areas where they don't have any electricity, where hopefully we can try and set this up elsewhere as well. So the model school in particular that I'm talking about is the Agamati Mahavidyalaya in Kaluthara. And we have a very visionary principal there called Prasanga Samarasinghe. And together with his English teacher, Ms. Nalini Vimalasena, she has put together with the principal a syllabus for teaching English to their kids at an after-school club. So the idea is extracurricular club, but an enjoyable session. But so we're there to try and support the work of the teachers during the daytime outside of school, but not in a way that interferes with their work either. So we've worked with the teachers to try and formulate this syllabus. It's a syllabus, but there's a lot of leeway, room for whoever is joining this project to try and develop it, put their own personal stamp on it, but within this certain kind of, obviously, a certain kind of framework that we will put into place. But the idea is to have a framework, but the individual tutors might enable the thing to actually grow. Okay. So we're working in the in the first instance with this model school in Kaluthara, and there's an associated school called Muses College, which is based in Kaluthara. It's not the Muses College of Colombo that you might have heard of, but this is another school also started by Marie Muses Higgins in Kaluthara, and we're hoping to support both of these schools with the very visionary principals, and plus another principal from another high school as well. The three of them have actually worked very hard in putting this together. Just to give you an idea, this is the room, this smart room, before the visionary principal Prasanga actually put this into place, along with his colleagues Ajantha and Nadisha. So this is it before, so you can see the state of the room. It's the roof is leaking onto the floor, and it was in a not a very good state. You can see the room as it was before. Please confirm.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So this is the state of the room before the smart room was actually put in place, and it was possible to put it in place because of some fundraising that was done by one of our colleagues, a lawyer based in the US, who managed to get a philanthropist to actually help provide the funds for this, and with guidance from Chula, the principals actually put in place this smart room. It's just about completed, and this is the same room. Can you see the difference? This is what it looks like now, and from about the 7th of December, this will be opened, and this will enable these kids to have access to the internet and this excellent room where they'll have all the facilities through lots of computers and so on and so forth. So this is what we can achieve if there's a will, and there will always be a way. So this is the vision that we have. But in order to raise the funding, this is where Solar Village SDG hopes to step in, is to create the wealth to enable this to be expanded throughout the island. So through this model school, we'll speak again a little bit more about the school later on as well. So in order for those of you who've very, very kindly volunteered, and really appreciate it, to help in this project, you don't need English language qualifications, but it'll be helpful if you do. But we're hoping to also, in due course, set up a train the trainer model as well. But it might be helpful if you do follow some kind of formal teaching, like the TEFL course, Teaching English as a Foreign Language. I understand there are two possible options there. You can do the 120 hours or the 200 hours, which is a higher level. But this is up to you whether you want to do that or not. It might give you the good grounding, a good foundation to enable you to teach more effectively. So this is the TEFL course. And I'll just see if I can... Right. So this is an experienced teacher. She's not a TEFL teacher, but she's an actually qualified teacher. And she shared some concerns that she had with the teaching as an English as a subject as such. And I'd like to play that video, if I may. It's a very brief recording, but I'll play that.
Hi, I'm Nithmi Pereira, a student who's produced from government schools in Sri Lanka, and with the experience of completing a special degree in English language and literature and a master's in linguistics from the University of Kelaniya, a postgraduate diploma in education specialized in TESOL from the University of Colombo, a master's in TESOL from Sheffield Hallam University, UK. I have gone through the challenges of learning English as a second or a foreign language. Also, when I started teaching English to various age groups in Sri Lanka, ranging from teenagers, professionals, and undergraduates, and also secondary school students in the Maldives for more than 10 years, I could see these challenges from another perspective, from a teaching point of view. In Sri Lanka, majority of the students' notion of English being just another subject, they attempt to do away with it by scoring marks from a paper which basically focuses on reading and writing. lack of exposure in or outside the classroom to speak and use the language in the midst of teachers largely using L1, which is Sinhala or Tamil in this context, to explain the lessons. Learning English for fun or developing all four basic skills of the language has become quite challenging. In some areas, lack of facilities and poor economic conditions could indirectly have an impact on learning English. Also, psychological factors such as fear, anxiety, and negative attitudes can contribute to make the situation worse. From a teacher's point of view, time constraints to cover the syllabus and producing results can act as barriers to make the lessons fun-filled and motivating students to use it as a language by not confining it just to a subject. Thank you.
So you can see that Nethmi's concern about the teaching of English language is the fact that it is taught very much as a subject in some countries where the children are just aiming to get the marks and pass the exams, get with a distinction, rather than learning it first of all in an enjoyable way, but also in a way that it can actually serve them to communicate. So the speaking and the listening skills are lacking in the current methods that are being used in some schools. So this is where the after school club could come in handy. And I'm just I had a video of a commentary by a TEFL teacher, but for some reason I can't locate it. But so I'll press on for now, if I may, and share that with you later when I can locate it. So here, I just want to share with you the fact that there are lots and lots and lots of resources online. So if there are any English language tutors who volunteered, please don't worry about how to teach or what resources to use, because there's tons of it on the BBC website, for example. There's a program called The English We Speak, BBC, just to show you very briefly what that's about.
Hello and welcome to The English We Speak. I'm Fei.
And it's me, Rob.
Rob, are those crumbs around your mouth?
No, I don't think so. Why do you ask?
Well, I filled the office biscuit jar with biscuits yesterday, and today it's empty.
Oh, I see. You think I ate all the biscuits.
You do like biscuits. Hold on, what's that in your pockets?
Well, they're biscuits.
Caught red-handed, Rob. You are the biscuit thief.
My hands aren't red.
I'm not worried about the colour of your hands. It's what you were doing with them. So when someone is caught red-handed, they are discovered doing something wrong, and there is no doubt. So, Rob, you've been found out.
Yeah, well, I can explain, but let's have some examples first.
This is the
Hello,
English
I'm
We Speak with me,
Hello,
Fei.
and welcome
I'm
to
Fei.
And it's me,
I'm
Rob.
Fei.
And it's
Sorry. So that's just an example of the resources that's available online. Just to let you know that there's a lot more, not only on the BBC website, but there are tons elsewhere that are very, very useful for different levels as well. Now, on to something else. One of the programs that we want to put in place is an online book club. And here we have a very young author who wrote a book called The One They Have to Fear. His Sri Lankan origin, and he wrote the book at the age of 12. It was published recently. He's now 15 years old, and he has actually agreed to a session where he could enable these young kids in Sri Lanka to meet the author. And because it's a young person connecting with young people in Sri Lanka, I think that he might have more success than some of us older people, the older generation, trying to connect with young children in Sri Lanka. So I'm hoping that this online book club will enable a dialogue, enable children to speak without inhibition with another young person. So if there are any volunteer teachers amongst you who are students, who are young people, maybe university students or doing your GCSEs or A-levels, because we have had responses from all different ages, age groups, and different walks of life. It may be that the younger people in the audience might wish to participate in this online book club, because following the reading, then it'll be possible. Excuse me, it'll be possible for you to actually have a dialogue with these kids and try and get them to participate, because speaking and listening skills are what's most lacking, according to some of these teachers. Okay, so there are free resources online for that as well, but I just try to calculate roughly how much it'll cost for us to put this in place. Just take this particular book, for example. It's just about £9. So if we were to purchase 15 books, those 15 books could be shared to a piece. So you might have 30 children in the after school club who might be able to follow a young reader, in this case, maybe even the author, reading out excerpts from the whole book online. And then they could have a discussion at the end of 3 paragraphs, or three chapters. There could be a dialogue between the two parties, and that'll encourage the children on that side to actually speak. But it's really important that the children on the other side in Sri Lanka are supervised. So this is why we have certain time constraints for the initial programs. They're at a particular time, so that there's supervision at that end. But in due course, what we're hoping to do is to enable access to kids from wherever. So whether they're at home using their parents' mobile phone or their parents' laptop, if they've got one, or not just confined to the Zoom classroom. But for that, we need to have lots of other things put into place. Obviously, we're dealing with children, therefore we have to have certain safeguards in place as well. So this is why we've asked in the questionnaire that we've put forward to please provide referees and to make certain declarations. Oh, here it is. This is the video on the experience of the TEFL teacher. I'm just going to play that as well, because this is somebody who's qualified as teaching English as a foreign language tutor. So Sylvie will share her experience with you now.
Hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Sylvie Hudson. I'm a French teacher and English teacher. I live in the UK with my British husband and my 2 daughters. And 20 years ago, we've been living for a year in Colombo, and I met Father Tissa Balaturia, who was looking after children. And I was visiting them from time to time, but I couldn't communicate with them because they were not speaking English. And so I decided to do the TEFL diploma to be able to teach. And I went onto the TEFL website, and I did it online. It was very user-friendly, going through all the grammatic, conjugation, idiomatic expressions, planning the lessons. And there were very good feedbacks. The teachers were amazing. And there was also a good chat. It was 20 years ago, but it was working already very well. So here we are. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to meeting you.
Thank you. So that was Sylvie's experience of doing the TEFL course and teaching as a teacher of English as a foreign language. As she said, it is really quite user-friendly. And so if any of you are encouraged to try and do that course, please do. But as I said, it's not compulsory for the purpose of running these after-school clubs. But there are lots of other resources. For example, if you want to teach youth and adult learners at B1 level, which is quite a high level, there are lots of resources for that as well on this cambridgeenglish.org website. So there's plenty of resources available. What we're asking is, we have developed a Google questionnaire. We're asking those of you who would like to participate to please complete that questionnaire. That questionnaire is embedded in a Word document that we've circulated. And if you can please complete and send it back by the 30th of this month, by the end of this month. So you've got another couple of weeks to do that. That'll enable us to try and get enough information, capture enough information to enable us to organize things. Please do note that all of us are also working as volunteers. We have our day jobs as well, so which means that we might not be able to work as quickly as we'd like because we are juggling other commitments too. But we appreciate that you too are giving your time very generously for this initiative, and we appreciate that there are certain restrictions on what you can and you can't do. So we're really mindful of that as well. Okay, this is what we're hoping to do, is to establish this step by step. So although we are quite ambitious in our program, we're going to have to do that in a managed, carefully managed way, to make sure that we've put in certain safeguards and it's organized and it's presented in a way that the kids can access it quite easily. So in order to organize ourselves, what we're hoping by the end of today is to persuade you to actually come on board with us more fully, and to actually, if any of you have certain skills, organizational skills, IT skills, we're hoping that you'd be persuaded to join us a little bit more kind of on a more permanent footing. And for that, we're trying to recruit four roles. And if there's anything on here that you think you might like to help out with, please do come forward. Please email the email address at the bottom of this. Please use this email going forward as opposed to the email address that I've used to write to you before, so that I can keep my work and this work separately as well. So here we're looking for an online English coordinator with IT skills and good organizational skills. That is one of the most urgent recruitments that we hope to make. We also need quite urgently an online education, a general coordinator, again with IT and organizational skills. So if these two roles really speak to you, please come forward. We would really welcome that kind of support. We're not expecting you to give up too much time. We anticipate it'll take between 2 to 3 hours per week initially, maximum. And if it grows and it becomes too unwieldy for you to manage with your other commitments, we'll understand. We'll try and get assistance from other people as well. Okay, so we're hoping it'll grow organically. We're also looking for an online science / IT coordinator, because we don't want to stop with the English. We want to expand it to other topics, other subjects as well, notably science and IT as an online tutoring option. So, but for the moment, the focus is on English language, but we hope to expand it to these other subjects. Another topic that we really want to try and instill is ethics, and this is quite important to try and encourage children from a very young age to understand what professional ethics are, what ethics generally are. This is not about morality, but it's about the ethics in a working context, in a citizenship context. So if there are people who've got the relevant skills, please do come forward. Please email this address at the bottom here. We're very grateful for your support. So that's all I want to say in terms of the English language and the Zoom classrooms. I put into the chat a little agenda for this for today, for this session, basically saying that we'll first talk about the English language, then we'll talk about the broader topics and that the Solar Village SDGs got in mind, and then we'll have a Q&A session, which will be managed by Saroj Pathirana. But we want to go through these presentations first. Once we've come to the end of it, we'll have a Q&A session. Please put your questions into the chat, beg your pardon, not the chat box, into the Q&A box on Zoom at the bottom of your screens. If you hover your cursors, you'll see that there's a Q&A question area, and I can see that 4 people have already raised some questions. We will deal with them once we've finished gone through all the presentations. We've allocated some time for that. Okay, so now I'd like to share a different presentation, and that is one relating to the Solar Village SDG, the Sustainable Developmental Goals. Bear with me one second. I'll go through that. But at the beginning of this one, there is actually an interview that was conducted of Professor Dharmadasa. And Professor Dharmadasa is the initiator, the person who piloted this solar village concept many years ago, going back to 30 years. And I would like to share that link. If I have trouble with this link, I'm hoping that my colleague Saninda will step in, but let me try and get this going. There we go.
I'm glad to introduce you one of the Sri Lankan experts in renewable energy, Professor I.M. Dharmadasa, who has been doing a wonderful service to Sri Lanka over the last 30 years or so. Good day, Professor.
Good afternoon, Saroj.
So we are talking today about your charitable project to Sri Lankans, which is called Solar Village. What is a solar village?
In Sri Lanka, there are so many villages. So I was thinking how to use solar energy to develop these people, reduce poverty, and also climate action. So in this project, we empower a given selected community. We don't give things freely to people. So what we do is we select about 1 or 2 or 3 cluster of villages, about 1,000 inhabitants in it, and then look at their issues and select a solar solution.
What is the solar solution?
First of all, we find a wealth creation method for them, because you can't reduce poverty without income to that community. So we have used 3 things. The first one I used was solar water pumping and distribution. In the past, they were using those funds to buy imported diesel to pump water. When we had solar water pumping, all that money was saved in the account for the community. The second method we use is we install a solar roof and then connect it to the national grid using net plus method. So the community get the monthly income from the CEB. So that is the wealth creation part. The third method we use is solar water pumping for drip irrigation, for agriculture, for food production. So they contribute to the common VDC plot. VDC is the Village Development Committee. We always select the village cluster, create a wealth creation method, and then form a VDC with about 50% responsible females as well. Then we guide the VDC to manage these funds for various development projects within the community. So that is the concept.
Why are you so particular about having 50% of women?
Because if we have all men in Sri Lanka, they can do these funds for various other things. And also we need to be fully transparent as well. I mean, today the Sri Lanka is in this situation because a lot of things has happened in the wrong directions. And we want to train people to do things in a transparent way.
So how do you get the initial investment to create this solar village?
That was a difficult thing because I designed this project. It was in my head. I was trying to raise funds. It was difficult. The first one we started in 2008. For that, of course, I funded myself. And for the others, I raised funds using 2 charities in UK, Helasarana and APSL. And also there were personal donations, and also a solar company in Sri Lanka also donated a 5 kilowatt solar roof now, and also writing proposals to funding bodies. I think the donations are very welcome at this stage. Later on, we will work with the government so that we can add this project to the national development program, because we can't develop a country with charity money. At the moment, we have established 5. We are establishing 4 more. And then we have 9
solar villages.
9 solar villages. We have seen beautiful benefits.
I understand that the latest solar village also has come into effect a couple of days ago, right?
Yes, this one was funded by the APSL in Mediava village. We installed the solar roof 10th of November. We raised funds using a GoFundMe platform and also using a raffle.
Professor, what kind of investment are we talking about? So to create a solar village, how much money initially is needed? And also, can anybody contribute?
Yes, when we started to install a 5 kilowatt solar roof, it cost about 15 lakhs. We installed a 7 kilowatt solar roof in Noche. It cost about 18 lakhs. Since this is a new technology, cost is coming down. Now, 5 kilowatt solar roof is between 10 and 12 lakhs. In fact, a couple of days I heard one company is doing for 9.5 lakhs. So the cost is going down.
How many more you have in the pipeline?
Last 5 solar villages we have done within 15 years. Slowly, we had to learn a lot. And this year we are doing 4 in one time. One UK family is sponsoring some of the solar villages. APSL sponsoring one. There is one more with the sponsorship of a Sri Lankan PV company. At the moment, I'm also writing a proposal to Australian aid. My plan is to apply for 8 solar villages. You know, you have to write 5 or 6 proposals to get one successful one. So if it comes out, we can do another 8 in the near future. At the same time, we will speak to the government as well so that we can do this with the government support as well as a national development program.
So what are the benefits to these villages by creating these solar villages or solar roofs?
We try to enhance education by improving their nursery, usually primary school, library, and so on. So that way we enhance the education within the community for children. And we also do things to improve the environment. How do we develop the environment? We have Shramadana, those are voluntary work for tree planting and beekeeping, various voluntary work for improving roads, etc. So these are the kind of things we do to improve the environment within the community. And also for climate action, we use clean energy using solar without carbon dioxide emission. And also we absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere by growing more trees. So this way, this project is very important for 3 things. We improve the education, improve the environment, we have climate action, and all these things are useful for the sustainable development of that community. What are the benefits we have seen? I will highlight 1 or 2 benefits we have seen. In the first pilot solar village, we saved the primary school from closure because it was in a difficult area. Teachers didn't want to go. Student numbers went down to 20. Government decided to close it in 2007. That is why we started the first one there and we saved that school. Now it is doing extremely well. It has the electricity, water, computers, and it is producing 60% of year 5 scholarship results. Now it is performing at the top 3 in the region.
Wow.
So those are the benefits. And also in Noche Solar Village, they purify water and distribute to surrounding 8 villages for a very small fee. That way they get the income, and also it is a service to these people because the kidney diseases are spreading in that area. So once we give clean water, there are no new cases coming out. So those are the benefits. And with these benefits, and also they save a lot of money within their account. They have built a community hall a new one. Now they are building an office and a library. Can you see, when you put these people together, they do wonders. This is the sustainable development. In fact, we gave one solar roof. They are now installing another one in their new building with their own funding. That is sustainability, yeah. And in Panama village, we are trying to organize, there are two communities, there are Tamil and Sinhala, and we are trying to organize Tamil language teachers voluntarily teach people, and Sinhala people teach Tamil people. So that way we try to bring people together, learning languages for reconciliation. It's very important. We are trying to put these different communities together. I hope people will see the benefits of these projects. We don't give freely. We empower them to do them. What we do is we plant the seed of the solar village, and the villagers together work to grow it to a huge tree, huge solar village. That is our aim. So any support for this project from any donor or any association is highly welcome. With the freely available solar energy, if we can develop these villages, the country will be a beautiful country.
Professor Dharmadasa, thank you very much. And long may you continue this, great work. I'm proud to introduce you to our fellow Sri Lankans.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, thank you so much. So this is to give you a briefing on what the solar village concept is about. But I know that some of you have a number of questions. We will come to the questions at the Q&A session. I want to go through another presentation first, and once we've finished that presentation, we'd like to invite you to interact with us by first of all putting the questions into the Q&A box. I saw a couple of raised hands earlier. Please put the question into the Q&A, and Saroj Batharina will try and forward your questions to the right person during the Q&A session. Okay, I'm going to try and share the next PowerPoint presentation I've got here. Hopefully that. Okay. So you were briefly introduced to Professor Dharmadasa, who is actually a physicist. He's a professor emeritus from the Sheffield Hallam University, and he came up with this concept going back 30 years, and he has been working tirelessly to promote this project. What we're hoping to do is through Solar Village SDG to try and accelerate that process, to try and expand the solar villages to as many remote places in Sri Lanka as possible, but perhaps taking it beyond Sri Lanka thereafter. So we're quite ambitious in our plans, but you can see that it's a wealth creation method for the local communities. So I'll talk a little bit about the details of that plan now, and then you'll see what this is all about. So first of all, what is sustainable development? And to be honest, it's Professor Dharmadasa who made me understand what sustainability is about. It's really about empowering and enabling people who are less privileged to live with dignity and have enduring skills which will enable them to support themselves. So it's not about charity. It's not about giving things free of charge. It's about empowering people to look after themselves. So it's about balancing economic growth with the social and environmental impacts that it creates. So far, the work of Professor Dharmadasa has touched the lives of more than 15,000 people. So it's a very impactful project that he's been working on for all these years. He's established 9 solar villages, or some are underway currently, 5 very much completed, a 6th one just recently established, as recently as a week ago, and the funding for that has come from lots of different sources. There's an organisation that Professor Dharmadas and I are both involved in called the APSL UK. It's a professional association of Sri Lankans, and a lot of funds have been raised with their assistance, and a number of other charities who've helped, and individuals who've come forward. But the very first one that was established in Kadurawa, it was Professor Dharmadas's own funds he used to set it up. So what we're hoping now is to expand this project through different income streams. So it's about trying to teach a man to fish, because if you give a man a fish, you'll feed him for just one day. Whereas if you teach him to fish, you'll feed him for an entire lifetime. So this is the principle, the motto the adage that we'll work towards. Okay, that's what this is about. So how does it work? In the first instance, the professor's been identifying a remote and needy community, and then funds are raised to set up a solar roof, for example, and then a local solar company will install the roof, and then it could be on a communal building, typically, say, a school. And then a village development committee is formed, and that's where you've got the equal numbers of men and women participating in that VDC, the Village Developmental Committee. They open a bank account and they manage that bank account. And the solar panel, the electricity that's generation is connected to the national grid. And local permissions might have to be obtained for that purpose. The funds are received to the VDC account from the Ceylon Electricity Board, from the national grid, because of a particular scheme that they run. And then the local solar village teams advises the VDC, and the funds are then used for the sustainable development projects. So, and I mentioned that there are 17 SDGs. And so what we're hoping to do is to expand this as rapidly as we can, so that people who are currently living in darkness without electricity, people who are using kerosene lamps, people who are cooking with firewood still in the remote villages, that they can have access to electricity, because that having that access to clean renewable energy makes all the difference to their lives. Their children don't have to strain their eyes when they're doing their homework, and so from a little kerosene lamp, and it causes a lot of pollution as well. So all round, this is incredibly beneficial. So the solar-powered water pumps can also be installed, and that can provide clean drinking water. And it reduces disease, for example, kidney disease. And that's what Professor Dharmadasa found, that by installing the solar water filtration systems, then solar water powered filtration systems, it reduced the kidney disease, incidence of kidney disease in the local area. And the locals actually managed to set up a scheme whereby they managed to sell the water, the filtered water, at a very low cost to neighboring villages. So they not only benefited for themselves, but they shared that benefit with other communities in the neighborhood as well. So this enabled these communities to be enhanced and to be empowered. So that's the key word, empowerment. It's not about charity. So you can see on the right-hand side the images of people actually, a solar company coming and setting up the solar panels. So these are the 17 Sustainable Developmental Goals enunciated by the UN, and we're hoping that we can meet as many of these as possible. But in fact, Professor Dharmadas's model predated the enunciation of these 17 Sustainable Development Goals by the UN, because he's been working on this project since 2008, whereas I believe it was some 8 or 9 years later that the UN formulated them into 17. But the solar village concept actually meets at least 13 or 14 of these automatically. So this is why this is a really wonderful project to be involved in. And I'm hoping that you'll be persuaded to also contribute or participate or support in some way. Just to give you an example, this is the very first one. This is the school that Professor mentioned. This is the Kadharuava Primary School. It was earmarked for closure by the Sri Lankan government in 2004. But following the installation of these solar paneled provisions, the local community formed a VDC, and with this sustainable method of wealth creation, the VDC managed to manage the funds sustainably and transparently, which is key here. Transparency is extremely important. And that particular school, as the professor mentioned earlier on, is thriving. It's actually doing incredibly well in the region, from going from something that was about to be closed to one of the top performing schools in the region. It's pretty impressive. So this is the kind of thing that the Solar Village concept and what we hope with the Solar Village SDG is to achieve this kind of results. So here you've got the Mediawa Solar Village project. This was funded and organized by the APSL UK. You can see the solar company actually setting up the panel before and after on this communal building. And you'll see that the kind of cost that was generated there was about, for this purpose, was about £2,500. And I hope I'm getting the maths correct. I believe it's about £2,500, because as the professor mentioned, the cost of these panels have come down a little bit since the early days. And it could create about 22,000 rupees per month for these communities, and the installation only took a couple of days. The permissions took a little bit longer, but this was organized by APSL UK. And completed just about a week ago. So this is an ongoing process. We want as many organizations, individuals to participate in this project, in these projects, and to come forward and to assist. It's not limited to any one individual or to any one organization. We welcome collaborations going forward. We're hoping that Solar Village SDG will collaborate with as many people and organizations as possible. So the step one to establishing Solar Village, identifying the site, then the wealth creation method appropriate for the community as well. We need to make sure that once the wealth creation method is created, that it's appropriate for them, for the local community. The local team's appointed, the village development committee is appointed, and then the solar panels actually installed following tenders by various companies. And then the payments to the VDC bank account is arranged as well. And the local the Solar Village team will advise the VDC on the various processes and how to even organize the managing the funds as well. So what I'm hoping is that Solar Village SDG will actually, in the first instance, using these funds, set up a smart room in the schools. If we were to set up these solar panels in schools, the communal building, if they're focused on schools, then in the first instance, we could set up smart rooms, give internet access to these kids, and then on from that, we can do other things, for example, cottage gardens, cottage industries, and I'll explain that a little bit in a minute as well. So the fundraising, first of all, the step 3, we need to raise funds. You can't do anything without having the funding available. So there are different sources, some of which Professor identified in his interview. In the first instance, he has been securing and continuing to secure institutional grant funding. And we hope with Solar Village SDG to be able to do that, to expand that, and also corporate sponsorship. Some of these solar companies, for example, or other companies who've got nothing to do with solar panels or anything of that kind, companies could actually sponsor some of these solar villages or some of the activities that we're doing for the benefit of the solar villages through the sponsored or ticketed events. So we're actually hoping to set up an event in about a year's time, or direct donations, or as an incorporated social enterprise, what we're hoping is that we could also trade in some artisanal goods to generate the income for these projects. So there are lots and lots of different income sources. If anybody can think of other partnerships that we could have to generate further income to expand these projects, those ideas are very welcome. So of the SDGs, these are some of the Sustainable Developmental Goals that Solar Village SDG will have. For example, gender parity. We want to give Sri Lankan women in the first instance, but hopefully expanding beyond Sri Lanka later, giving women opportunities to participate in the labor force, because that's seriously lacking in Sri Lanka. We've got 54% of the population who are female, but only 30% who are actually participating and creating economic, generating wealth in the country. And it's something that's really important if we want the country to succeed as a whole. So we need equal access to education for girls. We need skills enhancement for female-led households. We need protection from domestic abuse or other forms of abuse for girls and women. We need to give women a voice, and increasingly that's happening in Sri Lanka, which is great. And we want to make sure that there's no discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation. So we want to also support the LGBTQ community through this, through the gender parity plans. So then I wanted to mention to you this particular model school. This is the Agamathi Vidyalaya of Kaluthara, and I mentioned that there's a particularly visionary principal there, and he has been working on this Cinnamon Gardens project, and his vision is to make his children at the school global citizens. And what he wanted to do is, he's got a plantation of about 1,000 cinnamon plants. What he wants to do is make use of that to not just to plant trees for the sake of it, but he wants to teach the children methods of plantations, agriculture as a business, and teach them economics and teach them exports and that sort of thing. So using this plantation, the Cinnamon Gardens project, to teach all of these things to his children. You'll see that some of the parents have participated in this, and the bottom left, you've got some of the mums who've actually participated in actually helping set these plantations up. So it needs somebody visionary to actually lead these kinds of projects, and I'm hoping that this particular principal is on the call. There is an associated school nearby, as I mentioned, called Muses College, led by Nadisha. They're also doing an excellent programs for their children as well. The particular smart rooms actually set up in the Agamathi school, and we're hoping that these two or three schools will become model schools. So SDG 2 is zero hunger, and one of the projects we're also trying to get off the ground at this school, this model school, is to set up cottage gardens and to teach the children self-sufficiency, because food security is a real issue in Sri Lanka and has been for the last 3-4 years. So we need to try and make sure that the children learn how to grow their own vegetables and in their backyard. So this is another project, and we asked the agriculture teacher there, Ms. Kalpani, to help us get a sense of how much it will cost to set up a vegetable patch, and based on her estimates is 24,350 rupees, which is a mere £65. With that kind of money, we can actually teach the children self-sufficiency, and a whole school will learn this from just that. So you can see that we are quite ambitious in our projects. We've got quite a lot of plans, but we need individuals to support this, these ventures, these projects. So we're hoping in the first instance to recruit for 3 roles, and later on expand to a couple of other roles as well once we're more established. In the first instance, the most urgent request is to recruit an advocacy and fundraising manager. So if anybody on the call has the specific skills, we're hoping that somebody will come forward. We also need help to manage the general administration. So if you've got skills there and you're willing to volunteer your skills and a bit of time, that'd be most welcome. And as we mentioned earlier on, an online education coordinator, a general coordinator is quite critical for our initial educational projects to get off the ground. Later on, we will have specific recruitments for the cottage industries and the female empowerment. But the three urgent ones are these. There'll be a couple of other roles as well that we'll need to recruit for later. But these first three, if you have those skills and you are interested in participating, please come forward. And once again, email that particular email address. We are anticipating in the first year or so, if you can devote a couple of hours a week, it might increase to about 3 hours per week, unless we're actually doing an event, in which case 4 hours a week might be the kind of commitment that you might need to give for these roles. So as a part of the questionnaire, we had a sense of what sort of percentages of people who responded are willing to help out in the different projects. And we're really pleased to see that more than half were interested in education projects, and 46.7% interested in alleviating poverty. This is out of 75 responses. We've now got over 100 now, so some of these figures will have actually increased. So there are a lot of people who are interested in female empowerment and vocational training skills and tackling child abuse and that sort of thing. So really pleased to see the real interest amongst you. And there are quite a lot of people who've said already that they'd be willing to teach adults as well, not just the children. So really pleased to see that too. So thank you very much for that. So some of the things that we want to do is, for example, upcycling. Upcycling is different to recycling. Upcycling is actually using old things, not to disintegrate as you would with recycling, but to make use of old things to make them into new usable things. So any old pair of jeans that you might have handy that you're about to throw away because it's too tight for you, we can make use of that to make it into a bag or something. So we're hoping that using those things, we can actually help support livelihoods as well. So skills acquisition for female-led households, for example, handicrafts, later on some microcredits, mentoring schemes. These are the kind of things that we hope to set up in due course. We're also interested in resolving the human-elephant conflict in the country in our limited way, but obviously we might not be able to help the entire country, but we can start pilot projects which can later grow into something much more. And there are natural means of doing this through beekeeping. One of our members is very interested in looking after this project. So if anybody is particularly keen on getting involved in this, please come forward. I know that there's already a mention of keeping the country tidy and cleaning up the country. So we want to try and promote keeping Sri Lanka tidy campaign with the recycling initiatives, encouraging children in the main to participate in maybe some litter picks, or you can see the state of some of our beaches and some of our cities. So encouraging the use of bins and putting things away for recycling. We also want to support the environment. So there are lots and lots of projects that we've got planned, but we need supporters. We need volunteers to come forward to fundraise. This is critical. And so already we are planning on an event in November 2025 as by way of a Sri Lankan art auction and cultural program. So if you're interested in participating and helping out, as I said, the kind of commitment you might need to make is a couple of hours a week initially, and maybe nearer the time, about 3-4 hours. But this is what we're hoping to set up. It should generate quite a lot of income for these projects, the Solar Village projects. So this is about meeting the Sustainable Developmental Goals. A little summary here for you to see again what these are. Alleviating poverty, food security, health and well-being, quality accessible education, which is what we're focusing on the initial stage, gender parity, clean water, clean affordable energy, etc., decent work. So these are the kind of short and medium term goals for Selewich SDG and also the long term goals. I don't want to take up more of your time because we need time for questions. So I'm going to hand over now. Thank you very much for listening. I'm going to ask you please to email this email address if you've got any follow up, if you want to offer any time to volunteer for any of these projects. Please join us, please support us. But I'm going to now ask Saroj to take over and run the Q&A session, please.
Thank you, Nilmini. Thank you for that wonderful presentation and a lot of hard work indeed. And also thank you for Professor Dharmadasa for explaining the solar village concept. Nilmini, I have been watching reading the comments and questions while you were doing the presentation. Several people, some people, about I think 25 people by now had to leave due to different reasons. Mainly, many people were attended from Australia, so it is well over past midnight, so they are interested, but they had to leave. They have excused, and also, you know, here in Sri Lanka, it's raining like nothing, cats and dogs. Also, some people have left because of the bad weather. So, couple of questions, linked questions to the English teaching sessions, English teaching program. Rather than asking many questions, Nilmini, I would, because I collected these questions and these are all, I mean, connected. So I will ask you first set of questions from you, and then there are some questions to Professor Dharmadasa about the solar village concept. So Nilmini, it is Upeksha Ratna Sena has asked about the date of commencement, and Panchana has also asked about how many students per class, and does each tutor get one specific student? And I mean, it's about whether you have a syllabus and how would you distribute that syllabus, and also what is the duration of this English teaching program? So these are the kind of questions with regard to the English teaching. And there is another interesting question. I mean, they're asking for more information, and who would bear the cost for the Zoom session? So if someone need to do the Zoom session, who would bear the cost, and from where you would do the Zoom lessons, whether it is from home or whether there will be a center in Colombo or in a village or in an area where they could go and, you know, attend the Zoom, I mean, conduct the Zoom class from there. So these are the questions with regard to the English teaching.
Okay, so there's quite a lot of questions rolled up into one. I'll see if I can try and address as many as possible in one go, but if I fail to, please remind me of what's missing. So when is it launching? We're hoping to launch in January. We don't have an exact date yet because the Zoom classroom in the Kaluthara school, the Agamathi Mahavidyalaya school, that's where we're starting this program. As I mentioned, we're hoping to make that the model school. We want to establish it there. Once we've ironed out any issues whilst we're working with that particular school, once we've done that, then we can expand to other schools later on. So this is the plan is to pilot first and then to expand because if we start doing something that's too big and unmanageable, then we won't get it right. So it's important to iron things out in one school with the help of this particular principal and the English department. And then we'll expand. So the plan is to start in January, perhaps from about the 6th of January. I'm sorry, I can't be more specific on the date because the Zoom classroom, the smart room, is just being completed as we speak. So it's not completely ready, but hopefully by the 7th of December, it will be ready. And there is a syllabus, which is another part of your question. There is a syllabus that we have already worked on with the English department and in that particular school. So it's not going to be something that is very academic. It's really important that the children enjoy their session, and it's going to be an after-school club in the first instance. So the idea is to set up an after-school club, and it'll be just about 20 minutes after school ends in Sri Lanka. So the children have a breather before they join the after-school club in a Zoom classroom in that particular school in the first instance. There are about 40 children there, but once we've piloted it, and then we can establish something we can then try and expand. Taking it step by step, in the first instance, from the volunteers who've come forward, we're asking people to teach at the beginners level and intermediate level. And that program's already been established. We've worked with the English department of that particular school to find the solution for that. But as I mentioned, there are lots and lots of resources, and we're going to give a little bit of leeway for the individual tutors as to how they manage it, because there are certain topics to be covered in this syllabus, and then it'll be up to the individual teachers to put their own mark as to how they promote that, but in an enjoyable way for the children, so that it doesn't become an extension of the classroom rigor. Because we don't want to tire out the kids as they are. And one of the things that you might remember that Nethmi mentioned during her little intervention is that there's a lot of emphasis in Sri Lanka for achieving the grades. But at the end of the day, the kids can't actually speak the language. And that's what this is about. It's about supporting the work of the teachers during the daytime, the academic teachers, by providing an opportunity for the kids to relax and enjoy themselves, but learn without them even realizing that they're learning in an enjoyable way. So that's why the Zoom, we shouldn't even call them Zoom classroom. They should be just an after-school club. And also the book club. There's ways of teaching the children in an unseen way. So those things will start from about January, hopefully middle of January. But as I said, these things, depending on who comes forward, we need to recruit for 2 or 3 roles. If we've got support from those of you who are volunteer English tutors, if you can support with some of our administration, it'll then help us set this up really well, working again with the experts who are the principals and the tutors. I'm not an educator, so I'm not really able to contribute except to signpost. So that's what we're hoping. Are there any other aspects of the question?
Can I just update a little bit?
Yes.
The smart rooms or the equipped rooms are developing in the other schools as well at the same time. So in Kaluchara, I know at least the other 2 schools are also developing smart rooms. So the one that we designed for this purpose will be opening in December. And that school, the start room is designed to accommodate 30 children at one point. So you will have something like 30 maximum in a classroom. Then the funding that they've asked, we've asked the schools who are connecting up through their smart rooms whether they'll be able to fund the connectivity. That means the broadband connectivity. The schools have funds to manage that. So that is not a burden for us. So the schools themselves can manage the connectivity costs. Then the Zoom program, as I understood, and I also learned from Mervyn, who has been engaging in this, is that Microsoft Zoom is available free for registered charities. So the Leeds is actually becoming fully registered as an education charity in Sri Lanka. So we may have access to Microsoft Teams, which can conduct several sessions at the same time using the same link. So that will be free for 10 years, I believe. So hopefully it's kind of cost-free, I could say, for us in that way. So it might happen like that. So
there is another question with regard to the same thing. That's where you have set up Zoom classes, right?
Yeah.
But what about the areas where there is no internet access? There is a question about how do you provide internet access to children from outside Colombo or in remote areas?
Well, at the moment, the Sri Lanka Telecom is providing wireless connectivity. So you can actually buy a router that will connect wireless, I think 2.4G connectivity. So that is good enough for Zoom classes and even more than that. So the connectivity, you don't need wiring anymore. And the SLT or the other telephone providers will tell you how much coverage they can give to a particular area. So it's not much of a restriction at the moment.
Okay, thank you. And also for you to, I mean, there has been several questions about whether this will be available. This program is recorded and it will be available on Leeds YouTube channel. Is that, am I correct, Julius?
Correct. This video will be available. Not only that, the whole smart room development has been recorded, basically to show as a role model, so that if people want to follow, they can follow that and take advice from those people who were involved in developing the smart room at the Agamati school. So because of that, so there is a role model to follow and others to help as well. So that is how this is developing, and all these connectivity will be available as open videos for anyone to look at.
With your permission, with organizers' permission, I'm also happy to put this information, these videos in my channel, which is Sandesha by Saroj. So another question to Professor Dharmadasa. Professor Dharmadasa, one question, I mean, a couple of questions says it's not very clear what Solar Village is. Is it a business enterprise or how it is being funded? And would you be able to elaborate on more, please?
Thank you, Saroj. We started this as a charity program. It's using charitable funds, donations from people. That is how we started. And obviously, what we want to do is do a certain number of villages and then introduce these successful projects to the government so that we can develop the whole country. That's the aim. We started it as a charity program, not as a business program. But if we want, we can even convert it into a business program in the future, because this is the right time for us to develop the country, contribute. We are trying to find funds from outside by applying from funding bodies. If we can get enough funds, we can start new projects. But as I said, we have to get the government support. I think the new government is very supportive of rural development, and hopefully in the near future, we can work with them and to develop the country.
Can I just come in there? Because we mentioned during the PowerPoint presentation, there are lots of different sources of income. So one is the institutional funding, getting grants from various funding bodies. And that's something that Professor Dharmadas has been working on quite hard, and raising funds that way. Second is actually working with other organizations like charities, and collaborating. What we're hoping for Solar Village SDG to do is to collaborate with other organizations, other charities, other corporate bodies, or other individuals, whoever who's willing to cooperate and collaborate with us to raise funds. And this could be through also from ticketed events, sponsored events, whether it's a sponsored walk, a sponsored cultural program where it's ticketed, and the sponsorship from corporate bodies who might be a solar company, or it could be something completely unrelated to energy at all. So, for example, a law firm could sponsor an event, or a GP practice could sponsor an event, and they could promote their own business as part of their corporate social responsibility. So there are lots of different ways for us to raise funds, and with that, and donations, direct donations for these particular projects. So sometimes a family might actually come forward and say, look, I want to sponsor we want to sponsor a particular solar village. So we will try and facilitate that. But what we're hoping is to expand this solar village SDG program across the country, and with the funding, the wealth creation method, by connecting to the Ceylon Electricity Board scheme, we're hoping to provide an ongoing income source for that particular community. And that particular community can then invest in turn in the Zoom classroom, setting up a smart room, for example, in the local school. So this is a kind of a trickle down cascading program of wealth creation for the local community so that they can be empowered. That's what it's all about, empowering the community with those. I believe, Saroj, there was Mervyn who had an intervention as well.
Yes, Mervyn wants to speak. Yes, please.
Yeah, I was actually coming in response to the question you asked about connectivity. This is all right for the schools with smart rooms and who can fund their broadband. That's fine. I just want to explain very briefly what we have been doing to the APSL's scholarship schemes in online speaking English classes. Janet, who is sat next to me, has been teaching for nearly 3 years since COVID. And obviously, what we did at the time was very much, if you might call it a knee-jerk reaction, but we realized lots of kids were at home month after month after month with no hope, not knowing when they would go back to school. And a lot of them did not have any sophisticated technology, but perhaps there are no parents' mobile phone they borrowed to do schoolwork and get in the download handouts the teachers were sending. So using Zoom, we start delivering classes, and a lot of parents used to get one of those SIM cards topped up. And that's how at home, holding the mobile phone, they took part in the English lesson week after week for an hour. So yes, from different villages, and the signal wasn't perfect sometimes, but it was there. So while the classes do that in the organized setup, that could also throw the door open for a few other children who may not be in that village also to join into the class while we start delivering this. I thought I would just add that comment as a way around.
Thank you, Mervyn. Thank you. Shamini has asked whether it is okay to share this video with others interested. By all means, yes. Well, the more, the better. Nilmini, there is another question about, is there any cost involved to students who are attending these classes? And will there be support to the teachers?
Yeah, the idea is not to impose any financial burden on the students, because we are trying to help those children who are underprivileged. So we don't want to impose more financial burdens on them or their parents. So this is why the wealth creation method that Solar Village SDG will promote is critical, because the idea is to enable the local community to have an ongoing source of income, and with that income they will then manage the smart rooms or the Zoom classrooms, the funding of that, the internet connectivity, the computers. All of those things cost money, but what Mervyn mentioned earlier on was giving access to the children through their parents or their own mobile phones. Now that's a slightly different scenario, and we want to enable this Zoom classroom, the online after school club, to expand to those mobile phones as well. There's an additional issue there, because if you're in a Zoom classroom where there's a teacher supervising on that end in the Zoom classroom that's set up, that's fine, because you have a qualified, experienced teacher supervising the children. But if we are going to go into the child's home onto their mobile phone, then we have to make sure that we've got some certain safeguards in place as well, because we will need, this is where we're saying we need to recruit the coordinators, people with the IT skills to help, because we might need to even set up some kind of app or something that'll enable those children to have access to a vetted tutor who can then work with them one-to-one, or not necessarily on a group setting. Chula mentioned that this particular smart room has a capacity for 30 children at a time. But that suits the need as currently, but it may be that we need to expand this. So we're hoping to grow this bit by bit by bit, but there shouldn't be any cost to the actual children. But we're hoping, for example, the online book club, if we can, through funding at our end in the UK or from overseas, if we can provide a number of books for these children at that end, then we can have that interactive meeting between the student or English tutor from overseas with those children in Sri Lanka. So this has got to grow gradually. It's not something that we can put in place overnight, but and there may be some hiccups along the way as well, which we'll need to iron out. This is precisely why we want to limit it to the model school as a pilot program, and then we will expand. I believe that there are
Thanks,
some other questions.
Nilmini. I'm mindful of that we are running out of time. Couple of questions to you, and then there is another question to Dr. Dharmadasa, Professor Dharmadasa. Nilmini, I think we mentioned, but people are still asking, what are the dates and specific times for these classes? And also, for unqualified teachers, will there be a train the trainers program? And that's,
Yes.
and again, about the syllabus.
Yes, we are hoping to create a train the trainers program as well. But as I mentioned, these things will take a little bit of time to put into place. We're going to need some more volunteers to come forward to help us formulate some of those things. And we will try and get these things up and running, hopefully by middle of January. That's the kind of target dates that we've got in mind. But it also depends on who can come forward to assist us in this process. But as soon as we have got something set up, we will email, because we've put forward a questionnaire, and based on the replies to those questionnaires, we will try and formulate the program. And the deadline for that is the 30th of November. So based on the replies to those questionnaires, after the 30th of November, we'll start to put together the program, and we'll be in touch with those people who've clearly indicated a wish to participate in this. In certain, they've also expressed some interest in the broader objectives as well. But we'll be in touch. But we'll need to create some kind of app or some kind of system. This is where people like Mervyn might be able to help to make sure that tutors can book out slots, and then the children in the classroom can be matched. So we might have, originally when we first started this program, we intended to look for just 4 tutors, actually 2 for the beginners class, 2 for the intermediate class. That's what we were after, but we were surprised that nearly 600 people had shown an interest, and over 130 people joined on this call. There may be many others, as Saroji mentioned, because of the timing and the bad weather and all that. Not everybody was able to join this call, but I'm hoping, based on the replies to those questionnaires, we can formulate the program much better. I think, Mervyn, you had a question as well.
Yes, Mervyn, please.
Sorry, forgot what I was going to say at the time. Yeah. We were talking about the cost. There, somebody was asking whether there was a cost to the teacher, to the children.
Yeah.
Simply trying to describe our own experience of doing this. What has happened was, this was very much children learning at home. Janet and there were a couple of other teachers who were taking classes using Zoom at the time. And they used to using WhatsApp, because all the kids had WhatsApp on their phones to get schoolwork handout from school. So we used to send a couple of PDF documents in advance to the children to download, take to one of the local bureaus, get them printed. There was a cost there, so that they had something to look at, do some homework, etc. There was some interactivity. So that there was a bit of a cost there, yes.
Right, thank you, Mervyn. Professor Dharmada said now, Kaushalya Kumari Hami is asking that she's very interested in joining the Solar Village project. How could she join as a volunteer? And is there a similar questionnaire to be completed when you are joining as a volunteer for the Solar Village project?
Thank you, Saroj. At this stage, anybody can join this project. It's very open to anybody. I think especially for people who are living in developed countries, Australia or UK or US, raising £3,000, £4,000 is not a huge job. And through an association or what is called crowdfunding. We can raise those funds. We have a well-established network in Sri Lanka to do these projects now. And those funds can be kept with those people who are raising it. We can do all the work necessary for the project. If we want, we can select a site, or funders can select with their preferences where the site should be. We can do all the hard work, and then we can arrange a PV company in Sri Lanka to install it, so the funders can directly pay to the company. So we can do all the necessary work. At this stage, funding is the main hurdle. Once we have funds, we can do everything else for them. So anybody who is interested, who can raise those 3,000-4,000 pounds, and we can start. And also we appoint someone to keep contacts with that community. Those people who have raised funds can keep contacts. When they go to Sri Lanka, they can go and see them, what they are doing, and that kind of links we can provide.
Professor, how can someone contact you? What is the best way to contact you?
I think my email is there. Anybody can, we can leave it in the chat, and anybody can contact me or anybody else, Saroj or Nilmini. We can arrange everything for them to start a solar village wherever they like. And one nice thing is, up to now, we have done almost 9. We didn't handle funding. Funding is always with the institute. We arrange everything, and the institute, APSL or Hela Sarana, directly pay to the company. So that is the nice thing. So that anybody who is interested can raise the funds, pay directly back to the company. We do all the groundwork necessary for the solar village.
Anonymous attendee has this attendee has made several comments, very interesting comments. This is the comment he has, the latest comment by anonymous attendee. He or she says, we have 2 organizations located in US with the support from the US Embassy in Sri Lanka. We could help fundraise through those organizations too, if you would like. Is there a way that we can connect with one of the founders from the Solar Village SDG? Last summer, we raised close to 1.3 billion donations to 7 different hospitals and 6 different schools that are in low-income areas. We raised during the 2022 year close to $5,000, which helped purchase dry ration foods for 2,280 Sri Lankans. With the help of charities like the API Foundation and Foundation of Goodness, these donations were distributed to those in need. Let us know where to email more information.
I've just coming in there. I've just put in 2 email addresses, Saraj, into the chat.
Yeah.
If anybody is interested in participating, providing support, supporting our fundraising activities, please email these CC to these emails, and I'll put another one as well. If you can contact us, we will get in touch with you, because we would very much welcome support with our fundraising initiatives. And in particular, we've got a fundraising event planned in November 2025. And if there are volunteers to help participate in assisting with that fundraising event, we could have...
It's April 2025, right?
No, it's November 2025.
Right. Okay.
November 2025. So I'm putting in 3 email addresses for the Solar Village project. If you can CC all 3 of these email addresses, that'll be really helpful. We'll be in touch with you. Very much welcome any support we can glean from the volunteers on this call today.
I mean, this is the right time to expand this project in a very rapid way. It's good time. Government is trying to do the same thing. If expatriates can help this way, this project will thrive and the country will benefit. I think we can contribute in a huge way to develop our country.
That's right, because this is an enduring project. It's not about charity. And this is the key message that I wanted to give today. It's not about charity. It's not consumable charity in the sense that we're not trying to give a man a fish. We want to teach them how to fish. That way they will have a source of food and income for the rest of their lives. And that's the difference between charitable programs and this one. This is about empowering people, but on a
Empowering people.
long-term
Yeah.
basis. With this particular wealth creation method, which I thought was wonderful when I heard about it from Professor Dharmadasa. So this is why I'm all up for supporting his work.
That's kind of sums up the questions because pretty much many questions are of the similar nature, Nilbini. So let me read out again the 3 emails. CEO@solarvillagesdg.org or chair@solarvillagesdg.org. Solar Village SDG is one word, all simple you can have, or director.coms@solarvillagesdg.org. Solar Village SDG is one word. So you can contact us on either CC to all 3 emails or send an email to one of these emails. So you can maybe we will be in touch. Thank you, Nilmini. Over to you.
Thank you. I believe it's time is pressing on, and we don't want to take up too much of time, especially people dialing in from far and wide. It might be quite late at night, so we'd like to wrap things up. Thank you very much, Chula, for putting everybody together for this call. And thank you, Professor Dharmadasa and Saroj, for all your assistance and your contributions today. Thank you for everybody else on this call who contributed. Mervyn, thank you very much for sharing your experience, and all those who contributed on the videos as well during the presentations. Thank you all for coming. I think we could probably conclude there.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Chula. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
There's Des who's raised his hand. I don't know whether anybody wants to take a quick question there. There are a couple of raised hands before we disperse completely, in case there are burning questions. But anybody who needs to go, please feel free to leave because I know it's late.
Leeds YouTube channel. Someone is asking, share the Leeds YouTube channel. Let me quickly share the Leeds YouTube channel on the chat.
Yeah, I think Nilbini will post the link so they will see it.
Right. Okay.
Chula, I wonder whether you could please put that Leeds YouTube channel. I don't have it immediately to hand. Do you
I think if you search saying Sri Lanka Leeds, it will come up. All one word, Sri Lanka Leeds.
Okay.
Nilmini, there was a question just asking more details about the Solar Village project. In fact, what about the advocacy document? We have prepared a document to give all the information. So perhaps we can circulate or
So anybody, if you can please respond to the questionnaire by the 30th of November, what we will do is to all those people who responded to the questionnaire, we will circulate the advocacy document as well as information about the actual English language tutoring program. But if you need to have access to anything and we haven't been able to communicate it right now, please email any one of these email addresses and we'll try and get back in touch with you. Please email these email addresses rather than any email address that we might have used from our workplaces before. I'd be grateful so we can keep this work distinct. So email ceo@solarvillagesdg.org, chair@solarvillagesdg.org, or director.coms@solarvillagesdg.org. If you can email one of these or all 3 of those in one go, we'll get back in touch with the full work that's been going on in relation to the solar villages, with support from various organizations and individuals, but also something about our plans going forward as well. Please get in touch. There are a couple of hands raised. I don't know, Saroj, whether you want to take those questions or not. Whether we've got time.
Yeah, I can't see the okay. Maybe I couldn't see the
Okay,
Yeah.
there's Des Don Paul who's got a hand raised.
Are
I
you
don't
there?
know, you might need to put the question into the chat, Des, because this is on webinar mode. I'm not sure whether we can actually have an interaction as such.
I think we can't, no, because if there is no question here.
Yeah, if you can put your question into the Q&A box, please, Des, that'll be really helpful.
Okay, Sri Lanka Leads YouTube channel cannot be found. Hold on, let me quickly.
Yeah, if someone's able
Let
to,
me get it.
please,
Just a second, I'll get it. Just
Okay.
please,
Okay.
Chula, if you can, that'll be really helpful.
Okay.
And I will also post this video on Sandesha by Saroj. So
Thank you, that'll be really good. Could you put your Sandesh link as well, please, Saroj?
Okay.
Des, if you don't manage to put the question into the Q&A,
I'll put it answer. I'll put an answer here.
please email us, Des.
Yeah, I'll answer it. Yeah. On this now, am I getting it somewhere?
Okay, we've got the Sandesha.
I've got it copied. I'm just trying to type it. Just
Yeah, we've got the Sandesha link on the YouTube channel for Sandesha, for Saraj's channel, and Chula will put the Leads channel, there we go, for Sri Lanka Leads. So you'll find the recordings of today's session on both of those YouTube channels if you want to revisit anything that was discussed today. Okay, and please do email us in at those addresses that we've just given if you've got any other questions. Okay. All right. Shall we wind up there then? And any burning questions, please email us in and we'll be in touch. Okay. And Chula, I think you've got a different session next Sunday as
yeah,
per
we're continuing
usual.
every week anyway. We will advertise the topics. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.